Tom, welcome to Jeremy Carr Live. Do you think, sir, that the public opinion of Prince William will change, or do you think a public opinion about Harry and Meghan, which isn't great, will just harden still further?
Well, I think you're going to make a distinction. I think that in England, Britain, there'll be sympathy for William and Kate and increased anger for Harry. But around the world, I think the people will side with Harry and with Meghan and believe everything they're saying. And that's why it's such a disaster, which I predicted in my book, Revenge, nearly a year ago. I mean, I predicted exactly this would happen and that it would be explosive, because that was the only way that Random House would get their 20 million back. And I must urge you to consider, this is a book written by a ghostwriter. He has added everything he can to make sure it is sensational. And Harry has just gone along with it. So whether it's true or not, we don't really know. But I think that it is a catastrophe for Britain's standing in the world.
Tom, I actually take a slightly different tack than you. I mean, your book was brilliant, Revenge, and you're a brilliant biographer. I think that Harry would have approved everything that was written. And what was so revealing to me are those small details. It's not just the nicknames, the Willie, as he calls William, the Harold that William calls Harold. It's the fact that it's the small things that, as Dickie's just said, you know, Harry goes to call his therapist rather than his wife. It's the fact that William and Harry obviously have a history, quite a physical banter relationship when they're younger. To me, Harry would have approved everything in that book because he was in the box seat.
Could I ask a question without anybody having a go at me or being cynical? Where was Prince Harry's therapist, who was there like that, by the way, when his brother knocked him onto a dog bowl, allegedly, when she was feeling bad about herself? Apparently nobody was around and she couldn't be supported.
Well, he was waiting for the call at the end of the telephone. But if I can take Tom Bower's title of his book, Revenge, that's what this book is all about. It's revenge. Revenge against his brother, because he's the older brother, because he's the heir to the throne, and Harry isn't. It's revenge against his father, because his father let his mother down and went off with somebody else, said, yeah, we don't mind you being friends with Camilla, but don't marry her.
Well, some of it, I mean, you know, you want... If you're a publisher, everybody, you want bang for your buck, don't you? And I mean, it's obviously not the right way to do it. But, I mean, listen, this is extraordinary. Harry losing his virginity. I nearly recoiled off the sofa when I read this. I suspected he was referring to my recent loss of virginity, a humiliating episode with an older woman who liked macho horses and who treated me like a young stallion. Can I read that? Well, I'm going to.
Behind a pub.
I mounted her quickly... After which, I have to read this absolutely given, right? I can't even... After which she spanked my arse and sent me away. One of my many mistakes was letting it happen in a field, just behind a very busy pub. No doubt someone had seen us. This has never been... I mean, this is extraordinary. That's actually, not a ghostwriter.
Hollywood couldn't write that script.
But also, it shouldn't be ass. It should be bottom. Slapped Harry's bottom and then moved on. I mean, yeah, the amount of detail that he goes into is extraordinary. And a lot of those sort of small details, you think, actually, Harry, you really didn't need to do that. I think the overwhelming... I agree with Dickie and Tom. It is revenge. But actually, for me, the overwhelming emotion is resentment.
Yeah.
You know, we will hear, I think, in these 3 TV publicity junkets that he's recorded to promote the book, 2 American and one British with Tom Bradby. I think we'll hear him say he never wanted to be king, he didn't want the top job. He's always maintained that. He wanted out, he didn't want the pressure of being in this...
Then why, if you want out, do you air your private conversations in public for $100 million so you don't have to ever work again?
Because he feels very resentful and bitter about the way he thinks he's been treated by the family, the institution. But, I mean, I just think Harry is deluded. If you look at history, and you don't have to look that far back in history, you know, where people were executed because they dared to try and say something about the heir or the monarch. You look back at Princess Margaret, you look back at Prince Andrew. Yes, the spare has always had a hard time, but Harry was doing such a great job. Invictus, Centre Ballet. He did brilliant stuff.
And he did brilliant in Australia and in South Africa. Everywhere he's gone and been, he has done brilliantly. When he went to the West Indies during the Jubilee year.
Tom, can I bring you back in? I mean, we talk about bang for buck. I guess all of this, I mean, you have an opinion, we've all got an opinion, but this was... I didn't see this coming, you did. Is it time, sir, for Prince William to defend himself? Because the royal family have always been aloof, they don't speak. When you're having this much mud thrown at you, is it time for them to come out, or do they just maintain a dignified silence?
Well, I'm alone in this at the moment. I've been saying for some weeks now that the only way for the royal family to rebuild itself is for William to give a very considered interview and rebut the allegations where they are untrue, but more importantly, to actually illuminate the terrible agent of destruction that Meghan Markle has been on the family. He recognized her danger long before they got engaged. He urged Harry not to marry her because she was not going to do any good for the family. And William proved absolutely right. Meghan married into the royal family to promote herself. She is a phenomenally successful, a rather unknown actress, has suddenly become a global icon, and is wreaking revenge for not being made the star of the royal family.
I mean, you're shaking your head, Dickie, but I mean, for once, when I read this morning, I actually thought we don't have to talk about Meghan Markle. This is more about Harry, but I understand where Tom's coming from.
I understand where Tom's coming from.
How do you go from being an active soldier in Afghanistan to bitching in public about your brother pushing you and you fell on a dog bowl? What's happened to him?
The whole thing beggars belief, but I disagree with Tom. The royal family should maintain a dignified silence, because as soon as you start getting in front of the microphone, there is no end to it.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question I asked in the office today and nobody answered me. You want bang for your buck if you're the publishers, right? I would suspect, without knowing, they've got stuff on each other, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Is there going to ever be a point where the future king of this country goes, I can't take this anymore, through those sources that we know, the leaks that we know happen? Can you imagine anything coming out about Harry? I mean, the thing that jumped to me, actually, last night at 11 o'clock was, of course I took cocaine. It's a member of the royal family saying that.
Well, he had to, didn't he? Because he was caught taking it. He was sent to rehab. He went to rehab.
Of course I took it.
Yes, of course I took it. But going back to royal family saying something, they should maintain a dignified silence, because as soon as you start playing towards the narrative, there is no end to it. It's he says, she says, he says, and it doesn't stop. They've got to absolutely keep stum.
I think Dickie's right. When Meghan and Harry go low, the royals have to stay high and meet it with a dignified silence. However, I mean, as Tom says, it'd be great to hear William give a considered interview to hear his side of the story, because, of course, you know, what are the historians going to do? I mean, in 5, 10, 15 years' time, when we actually come to write proper history, you know, there's always 2 sides, 3 sides to every story. It's not just one person's account of events.
William came out once, if you remember, after that Oprah interview, and there were accusations of racism. And there was a shouted question at an engagement. William said, this family is not racist. And that...
He's known to have a bit of a temper, isn't he? And one wonders whether...
There is the Windsor temper, you would know that.
Yeah, absolutely. But one wonders whether the dam will burst at some point. I mean, where does it? Tom, let me bring you back in if I can. Where does this end, in your opinion, Tom Bower? I mean, they're going to carp continually from the sidelines. We've got the coronation. Will they or won't they? We'll talk about that next year. And already in the United Kingdom today, quite justifiably, I think, people are saying, you know what, strip them of their titles. This is a disgrace. Where does this end in your mind?
Well, there is no end until the royal family puts it down. That's where I disagree with Dickie. He's part of the old school. This is totally unprecedented. We've never been here before. And the issue really is that once Harry's book is over, of course, there's Meghan's book. And once Meghan's book has been published, and she undoubtedly, they've carved it up, she'll probably attack Camilla and other members of the families to keep it all going. There'll be Harry and Meghan's book. You know, there is no end until they are silenced by exposing their nefarious, their greedy, their money-hunting, fame-hunting ambitions. And, you know, I come back to it. My book shows that Meghan is an agent of destruction. All the evidence I accumulated is that she's a narcissist who destroyed her father, who broke off with her mother's family, who filled the wedding chapel in Windsor with her Hollywood celebrities to further her career. And we are just in an uncharted territory. And the old rules of dignified silence, in my view, will not end this. It needs to be put down in a very, very brutal manner.